What is up, guys? RGT85 here, and today on the channel we are going to be taking a look at a game that I have really been looking forward to. If you have kept up with the channel, pretty much when this game was announced, I was very excited for it. Of course, if you watch the November Nintendo Switch games that you need to be looking out for, you would know that this was one of the games that I featured in that video, something I've definitely been looking forward to, and that is the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection. Now, I was going to do a traditional review of this game, but I thought it would be easier just to sort of show you guys and talk you guys through what this game is all about so you can get a better feel for it. With compilation stuff, obviously it's compilations of older games, so you kind of know whether or not you're going to be interested in it. So I thought this would be a little bit of a better way to do this video. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I am doing a $100 eShop gift card giveaway. Once again, this one is sponsored by Ryan from Castlemania Games. If you guys are interested, I'll have a link in the description box down below. It's very easy to enter, and of course, if you win, you can end up getting this game for free and still have 60 bucks left over. So without further ado, let's talk about the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection. Like I said, I've had this game for about 2 weeks now. Shoutouts to NIS America for sending over a review copy of this game, and I have been pleasantly surprised because a lot of these titles, honestly, I wasn't super familiar with because a lot of these are older SNK games, and you know, I was born in 1985, obviously RGT 85, but most of these games are sort of from that time frame, so I would have been like super young and wouldn't have seen these games in the arcade. Now, before we get into the games themselves, I do want to show you guys the museum collection because this is a really well done museum. You can actually you can see here there's a bunch of different stuff going on. You can learn about all sorts of different games and the history of the games and things like that. But what I really like is they have a slideshow, and when you actually do the slideshow, you know, it goes through nice and quick. They show you different things about the games. They show you different pictures and stuff like that. The music is very relaxing, very calming, soothing, and it's really cool to see. I love seeing things like this. On certain ones, when you choose them, you can actually get more detailed information about the stuff. Like if we do the Micon kit here and start the slideshow, it actually pops up information on what you're actually looking at, which I find fascinating because, like I said, this is way before my time. SNK is a company that I'm familiar with from things like Samurai Showdown and, of course, the King of Fighters series, but before that, I wasn't really super familiar with it. So just to learn about the history of the company, learn about where they came from, how they got to where they are, and some of the games, I just thought was really cool, and they did this really, really, really well, in my opinion. So let's check out, of course, the actual games that are involved in this compilation. So there are a bunch of different games here, and like I said, most of them I was not super familiar with. We'll go through the list very briefly, and then we'll check out a few games, and then we'll also talk about the fact that they are actually adding in a bunch of more games for free in this compilation. There's going to be a patch that releases on December 11th that will have a bunch of new games that will be added to this compilation for free, which I think is super cool. It's always good to get more games, but these are the games that are available on day one. So you have, of course, you have Alpha Mission here, you have Athenia, which is a really interesting game. We're going to talk about Athenia. Crystallis, which of course was an NES classic, is a game that I've actually reviewed on the channel before. I really like Crystallis. It's sort of a Legend of Zelda style of game. Definitely a very underrated game. Guerrilla War, you have Ikari Warriors, Ikari Warriors 2, Ikari Warriors 3, The Rescue, Iron Tank, POW, Prehistoric Isle, Psycho Soldier, Street Smart, TNK 3, and Vanguard. Now, a lot of these games may sound familiar to you because they came out on the NES, and that's sort of where I knew things like Ikari Warriors from. I actually never played the Ikari Warriors in the arcade or anything like that. So I want to show you guys some of the different things here. So with Alpha Mission, you can actually choose you know, different regions if you want to do US or the Japanese version of the game. So that's pretty cool. You know, there'll be some minor things going on. You can also adjust different things like how many lives you have, what ships, the start area. You can adjust the controls. I will say one thing that I noticed is I wish that when you chose a game that the controls would automatically pop up because a lot of these games have different styles of controls. The fact that you have to go into a menu kind of sucks in my opinion. It's definitely one of the downsides. It's a minor complaint, but definitely something I wanted to talk about. So you can see the basic controls here for this game, and each one of these games has that sort of thing. But let's take a look at Athenia because this, you can also do the console versions of these games as well, which is something I wanted to talk about. Well, we're definitely going to look at the arcade version. We'll just start off a new game. You can do things like save states and things like that, which is super cool. You can also adjust things like full screen, stretch screen. If you want a sharp screen that looks more like a standard resolution, I personally just go full screen. I think that looks good enough. You can do TV filters, monitor filters. So if you want that sort of old school television, old school arcade feel, and you can do a border off and border on. I wish there was some more borders to choose from. I know a lot of these compilations have it where you could do various borders, but here is Athenia. And this is just, it's a fascinating game. Just, I don't know, I really like it. Like, it's different, but it's very cool. So you're just kicking stuff. And I never played like this on any other consoles or anything like this. You constantly are just sort of upgrading and getting better stuff. But I really like this game. It's definitely, you know, an old school, sort of primitive game, but it's a lot of fun. And it's really fun to keep leveling up Athenia and, you know, advancing through the game. So here you see you got to break these blocks and stuff like this. I'm sure some people have nostalgia for this game, but like I said, I'm not familiar with any of these games really, aside from their NES counterparts. So it was kind of like a learning experience for me, and this was definitely one of the games that sort of stuck out to me as something really fun and kind of different, just how you're consistently leveling up and you're consistently getting better equipment and stuff. As you can see, Athenia herself looks way different than she did, you know, just a few minutes ago at the start of the game, so I really like that. There also is a rewind feature in this game as well, so that's pretty cool. If you want to go back in time and, you know, correct your mistakes, you can do that. NIS America did let me know that they are in the day one patch for the game. They're doing some other things. They're adding in for twin stick shooting games. They're adding the ability to just use one direction that you can use in the game. And they said that they were going to be fixing the rewind feature. When I've been playing the game, I didn't have any issues with the rewind feature through the various games I've played. So I'm not quite sure what that was about, but that is worth mentioning. I guess it won't really matter because you're not going to be, if you're getting it, you know, you're getting the day one patch anyways. So you won't have that issue. But, you know, they did reach out to me and tell me that portion, so that is worth mentioning. But like I said, I had no issues with the rewind feature. But Athenia, definitely a very cool game. And like I said, you can save your game, you can load your progress as well. We'll just do a no save here. I already have a save file. But there's definitely some interesting games on here. A game like Prehistoric Isle, you know, once again, a game that I knew nothing about really, but it's very, very cool. It's dinosaurs and you're in a ship and you're battling dinosaurs. Like, why did this never happen in real life? Like, it's sort of King Kong-ish. You know, I say a ship, you're in an airplane, of course. But yeah, it's a side-scrolling shmup, once again, another fun game. I love the dinosaurs in it, and it's a game that I would have never really thought about or really paid attention to if it wasn't for something like this compilation. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about different compilations and things like that is sort of the learning process. And, you know, learning about different games, learning about games that you didn't know about and maybe just never played or overlooked and things like that. So once again, you know, Prehistoric Isle is definitely a game that I enjoy in this compilation. It's something I've put a decent amount of time into, something I want to explore a bit more, maybe actually beat the game. But, you know, with these compilations, it actually makes it easier to beat arcade games because you have continues and things like that. You can pretty much just sit here, and if you're diligent enough, you can, of course, you know, beat the game. It doesn't really matter you know, how many quarters you have or anything like that, because, you know, it's all done in the game. But one thing that really impressed me with this compilation has to be the 3 Ikari Warriors games, because these were games that, like I said, I had only played on console, on the NES. And when you play the NES versions of these games, you know, they are interesting. They're definitely not very accurate representations of the arcade game just because of technological limitations. But I never realized just how much better the Ikari Warriors games were on the, you know, on the arcade hardware. Like, they're so much different and they're so much more enjoyable to me to play, you know, these versions of the games as opposed to the NES ones. And I now see why Ikari Warriors, you know, why it was such a big deal back in the day. You know, you watch things like The Angry Video Game Nerd and things like that, always talking about, you know, he did the videos on Ikari Warriors, and I never understood, like, why of all the games he chose to do Ikari Warriors, because it just seemed like, you know, just some random run-of-the-mill game. But once you start playing the arcade games, you're like, wow, these are actually really, really fun. So I have been enjoying my time learning about Ikari Warriors and the arcade versions of these games, and really just having fun playing these games. They're very unique games, definitely a sort of lost genre, something you don't see much, you know, the top to bottom scrolling action games or anything like that. Like, it's definitely not something that's still around, but really cool weapons and things like that. Just a really fascinating trilogy of games, and they're definitely very well represented on the SNK 40th anniversary collection. And like I said, you know, it's a great collection of games. there are some stinkers on here. Like, I think Street Smart sucks. It plays a lot like original Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 1. It's just a very primitive sort of fighting game. Kind of feels like a side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it's a one-on-one fighter. You know, there's some games on here that are definitely not as good as others, but like I said, they are introducing a bunch more games for free with this compilation as well. I really enjoy games like Crystallis, of course. I like the museum stuff in here. It's really a really solid package. I do wish that they would have had the option to sort of pop up the controls when you first start off a game, because it kind of does take a little bit to get used to. Not a huge deal or anything like that. And from a preservation standpoint and from a collector standpoint, I do wish everything was available on the cartridge on day one. Like I said, they're going to be introducing games on December 11th that are absolutely free to this collection, but they are download only. So they're not going to be available on the cartridge. And just from a preservation and as a collector standpoint, I would have loved to have seen those games available on the cartridge. But hey, I'm not going to complain. Even if you don't take into those, you know, those upcoming games into account, I think this collection of games is really solid. I think it's really fun, and it really showcases the early days of SNK. You know, like I said, I was introduced to SNK during Samurai Showdown and King of Fighters 94 and things like that. So a lot of these games were definitely unfamiliar to me, but it was fun learning about them, and it looks good on when you're playing in handheld mode as well. I really don't have any major complaints about this. So if these games interest you, if you like the look of these games, you have fond memories of these games, it's sort of a no-brainer to pick up this compilation. Really good stuff here. And Psycho Soldier has arguably one of the strangest the strangest things going on. This is a game, once again, that I have never played, but listen to the music. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh yeah, there's vocals. Like, what is this? It's so weird. I love it though. So good. It's so good. But yeah, you know, if you like old school SNK arcade games, this should be a no-brainer to you. If the games don't interest you, you probably won't care about this compilation anyways. So as far as how they look, how they play, they all look and play great. Definitely a very solid compilation of games for 40 bucks. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think about this compilation of games. I would have liked to have seen, you know, maybe a little, at least like one modern fighter on here, maybe the original Samurai Showdown, but I digress. Let me know what games you think would have been good for this compilation, or if you're happy with these games or familiar with these games. And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Make sure you guys enter that eShop gift card giveaway as well. And I'm going to play some more Psycho Soldier, so I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.